RMAPI is a collective of the willing stakeholders in this community, in the Monroe County, Rochester community, who are focused on trying to reduce poverty and increase upward mobility. And so we have looked at expanding the definition of and the work that we're doing to move toward upward mobility so that all members of and residents in our community have the ability to experience economic stability, to have power and autonomy to make decisions that are best for themselves and their families, and to experience dignity and belonging. So we have adopted this 3-point definition, moving from just reducing poverty to a more hopeful message of increasing upward mobility.
So last year we did a design solution around the housing navigation issue that we heard from families in the community that they were having problems finding housing, which is a critical issue in our area. So we put together a prototyping session to come up with some solutions that could maybe solve that issue in the area of in Rochester.
RMAPI is looking to develop sustainability for employment and specifically looking at some of the roadblocks within this city in a number of ways. I think the first thing is by the employment working group and all the different working groups inside of RMAPI, identifying what are those barriers first and foremost. What are some things that are keeping individuals from either entering the workplace, progressing within the workplace, gaining not just a sustaining wage, but a living wage as well. And also in the sense of sustainability, we're talking about individuals entering the workplace and helping them identify what are the career pathways for them, what are ways they can grow, what are the opportunities in the sense of possible training that they may need, whether it be career training, professional skills or soft skills some individuals may talk about, and also in the sense of the technical aspects of the different providers of technical and workforce training within the city and within the region.
And so policy is the way that you make changes in systems. And so that has to be part of our work. Like, this work is not about, getting every single individual to work harder or do better. It's about making sure that the conditions are there for them to be able to work harder and do better. And sometimes our systems are not set up to that. So we have to look at the policy aspect of this.
I think one of the largest hurdles that we overcame was talking about institutional racism. That wasn't something that was fully embraced or accepted by many of the community members when we first started. I've seen a significant shift, not only based on community members recognizing that, but looking at different policies that have been developed to tackle that part of poverty.
I came to RMAPI specifically focused on how the criminalization of poverty was affecting my life and those around me. And I think that that's an area that our RMAPI has been able to contextualize of how expensive it is to be poor and how many times people are targeted. So that is why it's important to be conscious of how policy impacts us all, but very differently.
At the end of the day, policy also contributes to determining how goods and services are distributed in our communities. And ultimately, the right policies need to be enacted in order to make sure things are equitable for everybody in our community.
My office works with RMAPI in a couple of ways. First of all, we're able to get feedback on some of the legislation that we put forward in Albany. And so RMAPI is really this convener to be able to explain to us what the effects of certain legislation or policy decisions have on the Rochester area. And then the other piece that's really important for RMAPI is my office's participation with their policy work group. So we actually collaboratively work together to come up with an agenda that is actually going to help not only fight poverty, but help uplift the entire community of Rochester.
The poverty rate in Rochester has declined at a faster pace than the poverty rate in other upstate cities that we compare ourselves to. And it's encouraging, and it's also reinforcing that together this community, when it focuses on doing something, can make things happen. So we've seen a good 11,000 fewer people experiencing poverty in the way that the government measures it, and that's pretty significant. That's good progress.
So I am hopeful in the many residents like myself who have stake in Rochester, who have raised children here, will continue to have families here and have a future here. So I have to be hopeful.
I'm very hopeful for the future in Rochester. Number one, the people here is so great. And so being a part of RMAPI, being part of this environment, this community in Rochester, I'm hopeful. And I'm hopeful for just the beautiful people that I interact with daily. So very hopeful.
I think that we've laid the groundwork for generations to come in after us and continue to build. I really think we have a bright future here in Rochester, New York.
And like I mentioned before, it's not going to be just you a wave of the magic wand and it happens. It has to work at one issue, one step, one bite at a time, and that's the way you can go about being successful. And RMAPI is on the right track for that to happen.